last but not least, so the other employment opportunities. So the general, these were the two programs, but then there's the general international, NATO international staff opportunities that you could decide to apply for, and the temporary staff. Let me make a little caveat about the temporary staff. You need to be either security cleared or have been security cleared to actually apply to a temporary staff. Why? Because normally temporary means immediate need, which means we could call you today for tomorrow. And if we need a security clearance for you, it's impossible to get you so quick. But for any other opportunities, if you're not security clear, your country will security clear you once you get nominated. So you shouldn't be worried about that. Where do you find them? Again, NATO careers, job opportunity. There's a long list in there for you to be aware this year. And I've had this data of last week. We published 244 roles, and this was the first week of October, just international staff. So that gives you an idea of the amount of roles that are opening at this time, and maybe an inspiration for you to think about how you could fit. So let's assume you decide to apply for a NATO international civilian staff role. You would actually apply and start with filling in an application. Please remember, these applications are full of questions, and these answers that you give us to questions are read. So take the time to put them together with thought. Roles are opened for 4 weeks, so take your time. You have 4 entire weeks to prepare it. Maybe prepare it on a Word document and then copy it in the boxes, but it helps you structure. Whatever you structure, you give to the text, we see it. So if you bullet point, if you paragraph, whatever you decide to do with that text, we will see it, and it's important. Please don't answer things like see my CV. It's always good to add your CV on there, but if there's a question that is specific to an experience you've had, tell us about it. We want to know. If you pass that stage, so it's on paper, have you got the right essential and desirable criteria? We go and see that a bit later. You get onto a long list, and onto a long list, we would ask you to sit higher view, so an asynchronous interview. So you sit in front of your laptop and you answer typically 3 or 4 questions. One of which in French, but can be answered in English and it's translated. Typically, these are around your motivation, something a bit more technical about the role you've applied for, and something about how you work in a team, or how something about your preference working in a team, and about NATO. Why NATO? Remember where you're applying to. We want to know why that role and why NATO. It's one of the few things you can easily prepare for, so prepare. So there's then, you sit your high view. This is watched and ranked and commented. And 5 people get to sit on the final panel interview. What's a panel interview? Is about 5 to 6 people interviewing you as a candidate. And typically you will see the hiring manager, so the person you will work with as a manager if you get the role. You will see an HR. You will have a representative from another division, or what we call a neutral member, to see, could be a client of this function. It could be, a stakeholder, someone that has something to say. They will tell you what's their name and what they do. Try to retain it because it's important. They're there for a reason. So that is important. They will tell you exactly what will happen next. So how many questions you will get and how much time you have to answer them. And of course, you're free to take notes and to ask questions to be repeated. We want people to understand the questions and not to just be too stressed to answer them. So it's a good time, if it's not clear, if it wasn't clear enough, to actually ask it again. We encourage people that interview to take notes, because sometimes questions have sub-questions and they get quite complex. So it's always good to, as a tip, to take notes if that helps you. If we go into that, before we sit in the panel interview, there's 2 to 3 hours of testing. That testing is a closed book testing, so you don't access the internet, or you don't, have like an open book environment, but it's not necessarily a knowledge testing. So we will ask you to apply some concept and to think and to comment. Depending on the role you're applying for, it could be a press statement, it could be an Excel exercise, it could be a business plan, it could be comments about, ammunitions. It really depends on what you do. But it's a test that lasts between 2 to 3 hours. And then we have a language test that is an hour. Please don't get discouraged if the language test is not to your level. Just sit through it. If you're the best candidate, you will still be picked and offered some courses. It's always important to actually look in the post vacancy, and it's always specified which level the language need to have. And typically one of them, English, is proficient, and the second one might be anything from beginner to advanced. So have a look at that. It's always interesting to know what we're testing.